The thick black smoke from the raging fire turns day into night. The heat, so intense, all that's left of the house is a concrete slab.
It's fully engulfed from the second we pulled up.
The cars, the washer and dryer, even the bricks, gone.
There was nothing of the house that had any kind of chance of being salvaged.
And buried beneath the rubble, the charred bodies of a dog, 2 cats, and the woman who was so devoted to them. She was, ironically, the wife of the fire chief.
They made a wall of people standing shoulder to shoulder so that I couldn't see them move her.
He's the first responder who calmly arrives to find his own house on fire.
Come on, let's go!
But then loses it when he realizes he's lost everything.
When I saw them leave the house and start walking over to where I was, is when I knew at that moment that they had found her. They didn't even have to say a word.
How did Nanette Krentel die? Did she try to rescue her pets and was overcome by smoke inhalation? Was it a suicide by fire? Or was the blaze intentionally set to cover up a murder?
It just made no sense that in the middle of the day, here she would have died in a fire.
Nanette grew up along the bayous of New Orleans. Her sister Kim says she was the life of the party in a city that knows how to celebrate.
Nanette, she was a very sweet, caring person. She had a little bit of a feisty side to her, but she was loyal. You know, she cared for her family and friends.
Friends like her lifelong BFF from high school, Lori Rando.
Tell me about your best friend. When did you meet?
Nanette and I met our freshman year. We just kind of clicked. She was this full of energy, fun, funny, kind person who you just love spending time with.
But the person who Nanette spent the most time with is the one who captured her heart, Stephen Krentel, a man who just happened to be married at the time they met.
How did you meet Nanette?
She walked in a store that I had owned at the time and applied for a job, and I hired her.
How compatible were the two of you?
Very, very compatible. She balanced me and I balanced her. We were opposites in a lot of ways.
It didn't take long for these opposites to become one. Stephen divorced his wife and soon married Nanette. He joined the fire department, and Nanette went to work as a preschool teacher.
Absolutely loved it, loved being with the kids, and was one of the most sought-after teachers in this area. She has a huge heart. She has tremendous compassion for animals. She just was a good person all the way around.
And Nanette's father, Dan, says that compassion for animals sometimes put her in harm's way.
One time, I was with her and she stopped at a post office, and a gentleman had left his dog in the vehicle and the windows were rolled up and it was 100 degrees out. Nan said, "I'm going in and talk to him," and she went in. I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought, uh-oh. No, they came out and they were friends, and he thanked her and said he wouldn't do it again.
So what better place to raise animals than the 100-acre spread she shared with Stephen in Lacombe, Louisiana? She recently retired and found that life in the piney woods could allow her to enjoy her other hobby.
She was also a gun enthusiast. She knew how to shoot, and she was very comfortable with guns as well, right?
She was. It was something that we could walk out our back door and do on a routine basis, and she didn't go anywhere without at least one gun with her.
And Nanette had a lot of guns for the house, the car, and her purse. But despite what appeared to be a happy life, there were problems in the marriage.
What do you think some of those troubles were?
Her troubles varied. It just depended on the things that were going on, influences in our life at the time.
Despite some troubles, rural life seemed to be good for the Krentels until the afternoon when the fire consumed everything.
I got a phone call from my cousin, and he was telling me that my house was on fire. And at that second, I hung the phone up, ran out with my chief of training. We jumped in my department vehicle and started driving to the house. I was calling her cell phone, I was calling the house phone, but everything was going straight to voicemail.
It was the longest ride of your life, truly.
For sure.
Crime Watch Daily obtained this footage of the moment when Stephen was rushing to the scene of his own home, burning to the ground.
From this area where we are right now, we could actually see the smoke coming over the treetops, and we knew it was a fire of some type. I was just hoping it was the woods or something like that on fire.
When you drove through those gates, how engulfed was the house?
When we got to a point that we could see the home, it was from one end to the other. It was fully involved.
I could tell that Stephen's heart was racing when we drove up the long driveway to where the house used to be, the house where Nanette died.
What's it like coming here? Is it uncomfortable for you? Is it a bad memory?
It's not a bad memory because we lived out here for 17 years and there's a lot of wonderful memories here, but it just hurts. It's empty. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like home right now. It just feels empty.
Stephen tells me that when he arrived on the fire scene, his hopes were that Nanette made it out, but he suspected the worst.
Right here where the garage was, there were two garage doors on this side, and the garage doors fell in. And that's when I knew that her car was here, my personal truck was here, and I had just walked off over there and just laid on the ground from there. As soon as I saw the two of them coming from over here to over there and walking straight to me, I knew they had found her at that time.
So your firefighter friends told you where she was?
Yes, they told me where she was. And when the coroner got here that evening to recover her remains, I was over there still, and there were so many personnel out here that they made a wall of people standing shoulder to shoulder so that I couldn't see them move her.
You can't help but shed tears watching this tough fire chief break down, realizing he couldn't save his wife. The coroner takes Nanette's charred body to the morgue and soon makes a shocking discovery. The fire didn't kill Nanette. It was something even more ominous. Next.
The coroner's office and our pathologist here discovered a bullet hole in her head.
A single bullet to the skull and a gun beside her body.
There's a strong possibility that that was the gun that killed Nanette.
Who pulled the trigger, Nanette or a cold-blooded killer?
The cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head, and the manner of death was a homicide. I am aware that the sheriff's office may have a different interpretation of the fact, but we feel that the evidence strongly supports the notion that she was dead before the fire started.